morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Megan McPherson. Just in, the U.S. Attorney's Office announcing charges against multiple people for conspiracy to impede or injure federal officers. According to the statement, prosecutors are accusing members from two Minneapolis groups that they claim violently opposed immigration law enforcement. At this time, defendants have not been named, but the Attorney's Office will hold a press conference at 11 this morning. And today, President Trump sitting down with world leaders at the G7 summit for high-stakes talks on global issues, but much of his focus remains on his tentative deal with Iran. Vice President J.D. Vance saying that the two sides have signed a digital agreement ahead of a formal signing on Friday. But the fighting in Lebanon between Israel and Hezbollah threatens to stall this agreement. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest.
President Trump's meetings with G7 allies picking up the pace today, including with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, as Europe pushes for more Ukraine support. President Trump also sitting down with Middle East allies while we're learning more about the Iran framework he's calling a done deal.
They're not going to acquire a nuclear weapon. If they do, all hell will rain down on them.
The full memorandum of understanding is not yet public. The president says it does not include money or sanctions relief for Iran unless Tehran honors key commitments.
We're not investing any money. We have the right to if we want.
Vice President J.D. Vance telling NBC's Tom Yamas Iran would be rewarded for steps like giving up its stockpile of enriched uranium. He pushed back against comparisons to the Obama-era Iranian nuclear deal, as the former president said it's doubtful any new agreement
is going to be significantly different or a significant improvement.
The Iranian nuclear program has been completely destroyed, and what we're saying is make the long-term commitment not to rebuild it, and you will get the benefits that come with that.
A formal deal signing Friday kicks off a 60-day window for tricky technical talks on Iran's nuclear program, while questions also remain about the vital Strait of Hormuz, which senior U.S. officials say will be fully open without tolls, sending oil prices plummeting, though Iran said it expects to charge oil tankers service fees. And then there's Lebanon, where Israel plans to keep forces stationed in its fight against Iran-backed Hezbollah militants, despite Iranian demands for peace there as part of any broader deal. President Trump has several times sounded clearly frustrated with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, who acknowledged he and the president don't always see eye to eye. Their objectives in this war are somewhat different, but need to find common ground for peace to last. In Evian-les-Bains, France, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Right now, Minneapolis police are still looking for a man they say fired at officers. The shooting triggering a shelter-in-place warning near 35th and Oliver in North Minneapolis. That has since been lifted. MPD tells KARE 11 officers were investigating a vehicle when someone inside opened fire. They say officers did not return fire and no one was hurt. Anyone with information is asked to call police. This morning, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is back in court again. This comes just weeks after the judge in Luigi Mangione's state case held a secret hearing closed to the public and press. Not many details are known about today, but we are expecting the judge to discuss jury selection and the timeline for his trial. Mangione's state trial is set to start in September. This morning, a new look into the Minneapolis Police Department's state-mandated reform. An independent monitor says there's progress, but hang-ups as well. The department is in its third year of this court-mandated agreement that started after the murder of George Floyd. It requires the city and MPD to make transformational changes addressing racial discrimination with the nonprofit Effective Law Enforcement for All. The new report highlights improvements in use of force policies, along with health and wellness initiatives for officers, but says some major reform requirements are still delayed, including a backlog of internal affairs cases.
You literally have one person that's in internal affairs right now doing like 6 jobs. When you have the amount of turnover that you had, it's hard to get the right people in the door, train them, and then get them up to speed.
The nearly 40-page report outlines recommendations for the city and department to implement in order to meet their goals over the next 2 years, including setting aggressive but realistic deadlines and reassessing some staffing roles and responsibilities. It also acknowledges there were disruptions brought on by Operation Metro Surge. Right now, huge debate over data centers across Minnesota, including Minneapolis, where smaller facilities are allowed, but larger ones are banned. And just after lunch, the zoning committee will open the floor to the public. Our Audrey Russo has the details from Minneapolis.
Minneapolis has vowed to really research the impacts of these larger data centers for the next year. However, smaller facilities are still allowed in the city and they do exist. But across Minnesota, there's a lot of concern and a lot of pushback from people really worried about possible noise impacts, possible environmental impacts of these facilities. Take a look at this video last night. This was from a city council meeting in Elk River. Communities are considering these pretty much across the entire state. This was a city council meeting, and the city council there is considering a proposal for a 33 megawatt data center. They didn't end up changing their city code to allow it last night, as there's 2 more public hearings scheduled before the final vote in August. Those at the meeting say they want to see extra time and research devoted to the issue before a decision is made.
Not necessarily against it, but wanting to make sure we do our homework. And I wanted to know who we're dealing with.
But this is a complete travesty that we're even considering it.
Now, proponents of data centers say that they can help recover lost tax base and can offer some good high-paying jobs. Other advocates say that they want to see a statewide approach to regulating and researching data centers rather than the city-by-city approach that's currently being used across the state right now. Back to you.
This morning, authorities in Wadena are offering a new $25,000 reward to help find leads in a nearly 4-decade missing persons cold case. Carla Beth Anderson was just 23 years old when she disappeared between November 13th and 14th in 1987. Anderson, a vulnerable adult, was last seen returning to her Greenwood Apartments home after a night out with her mom and stepfather. Investigators found no signs of a break-in and nothing indicating a struggle. They say Carla's apartment door was locked and her purse still inside. The only thing missing were her apartment keys and her Hardee's jacket. Police say they're confident she would not have chosen to leave.
Our investigators have conducted hundreds of interviews with potential witnesses and suspects. We have pursued, re-examined, and exhausted hundreds of tips and leads. But someone knows what happened. Someone knows.
Anyone with information related to this case is urged to contact the Wadena Police Department or the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. We have new video into the newsroom this morning from 2 overnight car fires. Take a look at this. This was on 35E and Wheelock Parkway in St. Paul just after 1 a.m. You can see a Jeep fully engulfed there and a couple troopers blocking the road behind it before fire trucks arrived. That scene has since cleared. And this video is in Brooklyn Center just before 3 a.m. on 694 and Xerxes Avenue. You can see fire crews responded there to put it out, closing a couple lanes. That area has also reopened. Right now, we don't know if anyone was injured. In just hours, a Twin Cities real estate broker accused of using predatory tactics and targeting Minnesota's Somali community will be back in court. Chad Bankin took the stand yesterday in his trial after the Attorney General's office sued him. Bankin sold homes using contracts for deed to people who can't use traditional mortgages. The AG says he didn't disclose all the terms in these high-risk deals.
He encouraged them to buy a house that was more than they could afford. He then went out and purchased the house and jacked up the price by up to $100,000 on top of the original purchase price of the house. He then demanded that they make a 6-figure down payment on the house and had him sign a contract for deed that imposed an interest rate in addition, a very high interest rate in addition to that down payment.
The trial is expected to last several more days. We are on day 6 of the FIFA World Cup. Tonight, a big match between defending champs Argentina and Algeria. And of course, a legendary player taking the field.
One of the most exciting players to watch, you guessed it, number 10, Lionel Messi. He tops the list of one of the greatest to ever play the game of soccer. The 38-year-old was born in Argentina and represents his home country. He's played all over the world, Barcelona, Paris, and now he's playing right here in the U.S., playing for Inter Miami CF. Messi scored 116 international goals coming into the tournament and snagged a record 8 Ballon d'Or wins. And I think it all started on a napkin. That's where he signed his first contract. That napkin later sold at auction for nearly $1 million. And get this, he was actually named after Lionel Richie. Yeah, the singer. Apparently, it was his mom's favorite.
Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.